Andy Manahan with the Residential and Civil Construction Alliance of Ontario, and I've been asked to provide some comments on the provincial election campaign and specifically on infrastructure. I think the good news is that there's general agreement across all three major parties that infrastructure is important. Certainly the specific figure of $35 billion over 3 years for infrastructure investment has been touted by the Liberals, and I think the PCs and the NDP agreed that that was the same level that they would contribute over that period of time. I don't think, therefore, that infrastructure is a wedge issue. The only specific issue that has been somewhat controversial has been alternate energy infrastructure, and we have heard talk of Tim Hudak wanting to rip up certain agreements related to Samsung and so forth. So from that perspective, maybe infrastructure is a wedge issue, but I believe there's recognition across all party lines that infrastructure is crucial to Ontario's economic future and to our well-being as a society as a whole. So that's the positive news. I guess from my perspective, the campaign so far has really been about leadership, and unfortunately there has been not as much dialogue as there perhaps should have been. And I think what's going to happen more so after the election than before October the 6th is that we're going to have a mature dialogue on how to pay for the infrastructure, how to implement the plans, how to set priorities, and how to make selections of projects. I think what we have seen with respect to the economic stimulus program is that certainly there was some so-called shovel-ready projects, and there had to be some quick spends and that sort of a thing. I think in the future we need to be much more strategic about the types of projects that are going to be built that are going to give us more of an economic oomph. So I think there's some positive signs from the parties, but somewhat disappointed that we haven't had more of that debate on how do we get there. I think so far it's been more of a comparing leadership styles kind of a campaign. The voters, I think, are somewhat engaged. My concern is that the voter turnout, I think 4 years ago, was just over half of the population, and I haven't really seen anything that's that controversial or that inspiring, for that matter, that's going to really increase the voter turnout beyond the 52% level approximately that we saw last time. Now, I think one of the things that we could do post-election is to have an infrastructure report card, so some way to monitor and evaluate what we're doing. So we're going to have to establish targets. What do we need to spend on a per annum basis? And that will then, of course, be broken down into various sectors like transportation and health and courts and so forth. So we've got to take a close look at what our goals are, and I think we need to really measure. We need to have appropriate metrics as to are we getting there? Are we making progress? And so those measurement tools are going to be very important in the future, I think, for the public and certainly the political establishment and our industry collectively to determine, are we making progress in infrastructure investment?